Hey everyone, it's Chad Bewley checking in from the Toben Series Podcast.
As I mentioned, you'll get the notification of when the meeting is being recorded, and we are now live with another edition of the Toben Series Podcast. Devontae, today's going to be a fun one. You know why today's going to be a fun one? Because you're a day older. You're a quarter of a century now. You've hit the mark. You know, how do you feel? Talk about how you feel before we get started and introduce our guest.
I feel the same. 25 is not it's a mark, but it just means you're getting older. It just means you have more obligations. So I'm not looking forward to that.
Hey, you know what would have been a good feather for you? If Damian Lillard was still in the playoffs and they're going a little bit further than the Trailblazers.
Wow. That's how we're starting off the show? Wow. No comment.
But with that being said, though, we're going to introduce our guest for today because he just got a new job with Georgian College. He's a head coach over there. In my opinion, he deserves it a long time ago, but it's glad to see that he's able to get it now. He's a former pro basketball player. He's a champion, a national champion with Humber. He's also a former assistant coach with the Humber Hawks as well. We have Chad Bewley in the building. How you doing today, Chad?
What's going on, fellas? I'm doing all right, man.
And we appreciate you giving us some time to talk to us about your Toben experience, your overseas experience. Talk a little about LeBron James today because we know how much you love LeBron. And we're going to definitely have a great one today. But I got to ask you, though, Chad, beforehand, I want everyone to know that this is our second time doing it. We had some audio technical difficulties last time, but that's okay. Usually last time we started off with a game. Today we're not going to get into that game. I want to ask you straight from the jump, though. 2020 started off very, very, very poor with Kobe Bryant passing away. When Kobe Bryant passed, what were your thoughts and where were you?
Oh man, that was shocking. I remember when I first heard about it, I didn't believe it. One of my friends had told me, "Oh, Kobe passed," and I was like, "Nah, couldn't be." It's that initial shock, and then you start looking it up, and it starts popping up everywhere, and it's popping up more and more and more to the point where you're like, "Oh, this is actually real," and it's a very sombering experience. There've been a lot of famous people that have been passing away recently, especially from our generation, you know what I mean? And that's kind of something new that we've never had to deal with growing up, right? So having someone like Kobe who hits so close to home, that drive, that passion, that motivation that he has for the game, that's kind of crept into all of us watching him and all of us who have admired him throughout all the years. Having him go, especially at such a young age, when he was just primed for the next step in his life, it's shocking, and it's such a big loss to us as a basketball community and to the world, to be honest.
I can't disagree with you on that one. In my opinion, he's the second greatest basketball player to ever play the game. So when he passed away, I definitely felt the exact same way. Kobe got inducted to the Hall of Fame a couple weeks ago. Do you think this was perfect timing, or do you think the NBA should have made an exception for him to get in the Hall of Fame a little bit earlier?
Honestly, I understand the question. I mean, the NBA had no idea what was coming, so putting them in earlier would have been something different. But I mean, we all knew Kobe was getting there, and it was really, really nice timing for his family to be able to honor him in that moment as well, right? So yeah, I think it was good. I think the ceremony was good, and MJ being up there, being able to present to his younger brother type, like the same way we all see them as basketball players, was really important.
For sure. And I'm glad you touched up on your family, because recently an article came out with Vanessa Bryant talking about the Mambacita shoe that somehow or another Nike put out, and was able to kind of, talk about saying that how is people getting the Mambacita shoe when they haven't even posted it on Nike yet, or let it go up for sale. What's your thoughts about that? What's your thoughts about what Nike's doing with that right now?
I think no matter where you go, whether it's school, whether it's D1 basketball, whether it's the overtime league, NBA, anytime you're dealing with companies or people who are making a profit, there's always going to be something else going on. And that's a little bit beyond the people that are involved, and you have to be careful and you have to take care of yourself. I mean, as a pro basketball player, and I know Devontae can attest to this, you come to a team and they love you and they want you, and then you get there and they may treat you a little bit differently once you're there because they already have you, because it's really about how they come off, how they look, and what's best for them. And you are just a piece of that. And for everyone who feels so emotionally connected to Kobe and how they can be upset when Vanessa feels kind of disrespected, that goes on in business every single day to people all across levels, right? So making sure that you can get ahead of those things and see where companies are going or why people are trying to use you as long as your goals align, it's okay. But as soon as those things have kind of crossed, you have to really, protect yourself in those situations. So I can understand her being upset, and I understand Nike too, because Nike's out there trying to make a profit, but at the same time, there's a little bit more respect that needs to go into it.
No, for sure. And you mentioned a key word there. You said connection. A lot of people did have that connection with Kobe, but there's a lot of people that have a connection with LeBron James right now. LeBron losing in the first round. Is this the first time ever in his career that he's ever lost in the first round? Do you think LeBron James is going to retire in a couple of years, or what are your thoughts on his retirement?
Honestly, I'm not as much of a big LeBron hater as everyone seems to think. I'm more of a against LeBron fans type guy. When he came out this year, everyone was like, "Oh, how can you be so happy? It's in his 18th year. What do you expect?" Listen, it's his 18th year. That's incredible. Longevity wise, that's GOAT status. No one has been at that peak for 18 years like that. Like, it's incredible. I have absolutely zero expectations from a 36-year-old in the league. Mm-hmm. But when someone tells me that he's going to score 50 and he can win any game any single night he wants, well, then you have to talk about it, man. And I don't have that expectation of LeBron. I think LeBron's career is what it has been, and I'm sure there's going to be some more flashes in the future, but it is coming down to an end. He is not the same he was 5-6 years ago. He is not the guy who can win a game by himself anymore. And that's why he has AD, and we can see what happens when AD is not there. So I think LeBron went to LA for more reasons than just basketball. And we're going to see that in the next couple of years. I think LeBron James is an all-time business great. That is hands down undeniable. And I think we're going to see him making some moves behind the scenes now that we won't notice until he's prepared to retire. He's setting himself up for LA, setting himself up for that post-retirement thing, and we'll see what he has in store going into that.
I mean, we kind of see him now with him going to Space Jam, and because that's coming out a couple months or a month from now, so you're probably onto something with that. I think you're trying to get into acting and trying to get into movie productions and stuff like that.
That thing.
Here we go.
Yeah. But you know what? You mentioned that he's a GOAT in his own way. There's always a GOAT talk of Michael, Kobe, LeBron. Kobe's played in the finals on broken ligaments. Jordan's played in the final with the flu. But LeBron started walking in the third quarter and fourth quarter of Game 5 and Game 6. Does this tarnish his legacy, or is this one of those where he's kind of just injured, he's hurt? Talk to us about that.
LeBron James is the poster boy of the NBA. That's what he is, and that's what he's been. And that also makes him the poster boy of this generation. And this generation is that AAU basketball, that highlight basketball. I was talking with somebody, and they're saying, hey, before, if I go to a gym and I do a 360 through the legs, the 10 people in the gym see it, and they see it one time. I go and I tell you, hey, yo, guess what I did? No one cares. Now we have highlights, we have clips. You can rewatch me doing the same thing 10,000 times, and it looks like I can do it every single time, right? That's not the fact of the matter. We go in and we watch these highlights from LeBron James. He comes down the lane, dunks on 2 guys. Cool, clear runway, he got there. What if there's a bump next time? It's not the same just because you've watched it 100 times in a row. And LeBron James can't be doing 40 minutes. Now, it's not fair to your teammates to be walking back and to be pointing fingers and to be taking possessions off, right? It's becoming more and more obvious the older he gets. But that's just symptomatic of what's going on in this generation. I want the glory. I want the highlights. I'm not here for the hard work portion that goes into it, right? And if you don't have those guys that do all the hard work portions of it, you really get stranded. And that showed on the Lakers this year, when you had guys like Rondo and stuff like that last year who were doing anything whatsoever to win the game because they know what it takes to win, versus a guy like Shorter, who's a little bit younger, a little bit flashier, likes to go, all of a sudden the scoring's not there, now you're a complete liability to your entire team. LeBron is literally the microcosm of the culture today and what we're moving towards. We're moving towards highlights. We're moving towards flash. We're moving towards business substance. Look at Floyd Mayweather and that fight right there, right? Was that boxing? Was that really good boxing? Did anyone go in there expecting a great man? That was entertainment. That was Kardashian reality TV, and that's what this generation's all about, right? So when you see LeBron taking off those possessions, what's LeBron thinking? Who cares? They're going to see the highlights and see that I got my 24 and 10. I did good stuff. That's what I need. And I can look around and be like, hey, guys, I wish I had a little bit more help. I watched the Tony Parker documentary last night. And Tony Parker, when he was the captain of the French national team, had an interview and said, hey, I can't do it by myself. Listen, to any kids watching this, that's not leadership. Leadership is taking every loss and every mistake, yours or not, and putting it on your back and saying, yo, I'm going to make sure this doesn't happen again. Taking responsibility is leadership, not being the face of something and being the highlight reel. So it's just a cultural thing. You can see it when you look at super teams. People are mad at KD. KD is the best player in basketball right now. But going to Golden State and then going to Brooklyn, that doesn't speak well on you, right? You're talking about Devontae and Lillard. Lillard's out here saying, yo, I'm going to do everything I possibly can to make my team win because I'm good enough. That's substance. And if he doesn't get there, that's tough and that's hard and that's just situational things, right? But we get so caught up into saying, hey, your legacy is all in chips. LeBron's got 4, Kobe's got 5, MJ's got 6. There's your order. Like we tie everything up into those one single thing. So of course, kids are gonna be like, well, I want all the highlights because that's what people care about. I want to jump on the best team, so I don't have to work hard because I just need to win. I'm not gonna work in those little moments and do all those little things. I want to be the face. It's just a generation we're in, and we have to acclimatize that. And the people who can kind of dig a little bit deeper and see those extra things that need to be done, they're the ones who are going to outshine everyone in this class right now. So it's just something to take note for and to look at.
I want to ask you one more question, and then I'm off your back. You're on to Devontae. But, we spoke about Kawhi Leonard a while back ago, a couple weeks ago when we saw each other. He took the team. They were down 0-2. Luka Doncic was killing them. They were down 20 in Game 3. Everyone thought, Dallas about to win, about to go up 3-0. Kawhi Leonard comes back in Game 6, scores 40 plus. Then in Game 7, he almost had a triple-double, 1 assist or 1 rebound away from a triple-double. Where do you have him in your rankings, and do you think that he overcomes now, a top 3 if he wins this year with the Clippers?
Honestly, my friend actually said that to me. They're like, if he wins with the Clippers, that's what, 2 with the Spurs, 1 with the Raptors, 1 with the Clippers?
No, 1 with the Spurs, 1 with the Raptors, 1 with the Clippers.
So he only got 1 with the Spurs.
Yeah. He went to the final. He went to the finals twice with the Spurs, and then Ray Allen hit that lucky ass shot off Chris Bosh's bounce, and Miami won.
Cool. Wow. Fair. No, I think Kawhi is climbing really fastly, really quietly. I don't think the Clippers organization is the best one for him, but he wanted to go home, so that's what he's working with now. I think them getting over the hump of Dallas is huge because Luka seems to be their entire team's kryptonite. So we'll see how they do in the second round. But the job doesn't get easier from here, man. I think they have Utah tonight. Donovan Mitchell has been balling out of control. Rudy Gobert is going to clog the lane, and Kawhi's not going to be dunking on Rudy Gobert like he does everybody else. Like, there's a lot more nuance to the game when you move up in those levels. So we'll see what they can do this year, but definitely Kawhi is moving up that list really quick because he does those substance things, the defensive plays. He doesn't need 5 highlight blocks, but you know what? He'll make you miss 10 shots in a row. And that type of defense is so underrated because we look for who has the most steals, who has the most blocks. We don't look for, hey, my guy shot 1 of 15. That's what a defender is.
That's fair.
Now, before we transition here, Chad, where do you have LeBron James in your top 5, or where do you have Kawhi Leonard in your top 5? Any of those players are in there.
Of all time or in the league right now?
In the league right now.
In the league right now, currently, I don't have either of those players in my top 5.
Okay, I figured. So we're gonna leave it at that. We're gonna transition here. Now, we love to ask every Toben player this because every response is different. What does Toben basketball mean to you, and how did you guys meet?
Oh man, so it's kind of funny. I went to a very small high school, and one of the few basketball players on my team with me was actually connected to Toben from a long time ago, and he's like, hey, like, we need some help. I could connect you to this guy. You should come play here. And so he kind of got me connected to Tony. I had no idea what was going on, but it was more basketball. And at that point in my career, I was on 77 teams, 14 games a week, 45 practices a week. You know what it's like as a young guy. So I'm like, yeah, I'm there. Why not? I'm going to play. So showed up, got to meet Tony, looked around on the team, and I'm like, you already have all my friends here. I couldn't have made a better team myself. And the best part about playing for Tony is Tony likes character guys. And that's something that kind of really stands out. The guys that come and play on the team, they all mesh really well. They're all good guys. We don't have any crazy head cases or people that can't talk to each other. We can get on each other in the game and not take it out on each other after the game. It's a very, very unique team atmosphere. Usually on every team, you have a couple guys that kind of mess that up, or one guy who wants 40 shots. And at Toben, we're literally just having fun playing with each other, and it's a completely different feeling. So being there, I felt at home right away, and it was a really, really good experience. In terms of what Toben means to me, it really fills a gap in basketball right now. We have college players and we have pro players. And if you're not on contract or you're not in school, where are you training? Who are you working with? What are your connections? How are you competing against guys at your level on a regular basis? Toben fills that gaps for guys, and that really helps people in terms of the, you know what, maybe I need to go get a job at a grocery store and I won't be able to play this summer, and hopefully I'll magically get a contract again, even though I'm not going to be able to be in the gym as much. Or I can have these sort of situations and opportunities provided to me, so even if I'm working, I can still come out and train against these good players, and I'm not having to run everyone down all the time. So that was really, really huge. And for me, it was when I was overseas that I first kind of got connected to them. And every summer when I come home, I'd be jumping on the run. And it was great to have that seamless transition where it's not like, okay, and being out of the city too, going to Albany, you know what it's like. If you leave the city for a couple months, everyone forgets you're there. So having somewhere to come back to is a big thing for all of us, for sure.
Now let me hit you with some quick hitters here. Favorite Toben memory?
Okay, favorite Toben memory. Because we kind of went over this before, I'm going to have to go with Halifax. That Halifax trip was a lot of fun. If you've ever been on a basketball team at any level, you know those overnight trips, those longer trips that you're with your teammates where you get to enjoy each other, really changes things. And there's the basketball side, which is always great because it's a really, really competitive tournament. Mm-hmm. And because we win every year, so that's also fun. But it's the interaction. It's being able to be on the East Coast to try different things, go different spots, the seafood over there, that whole interaction and just time spent with teammates, I think is one of the most important things for sure. Going out after the tournament was amazing because the whole city's out with you. Like, it's just a good feeling to be out there for sure.
Steven, we're missing out. But anyways, name your personal starting five for Toben, which includes yourself. So whether you put yourself at PG, shooting guard, make sure we know that.
Who are the best five defenders on Toben? Because I'll take all of those guys and I'll just shoot.
He's a smart man.
Honestly, it's a really unique situation because the guys that I'm closest with are also the guys that I bicker with on the floor the most. So it creates a unique environment. But I don't know if I could pick just five because it all depends on where we're playing, what the goal is, what the situation is. Because I've had so many good experiences with all of them. You know what I mean? So
where are you putting yourself in that lineup at least?
Where am I putting myself?
You know what? Let's go to Pink City. You're a point guard. Who's your other fourth?
My other fourth at Pink City?
At Pink City.
Oh, okay. Let me get a dunker. Let me get a Shane type. Let me get James. James is always solid for us. There's no Toben team without Josh. But Josh can't have the ball. Josh can be a shooting guard. Josh can be a two, okay?
Fair enough.
And then, I don't know, man. There's so many guys. There's so many guys that we've played with that can score the ball, that defend well. Like, the Toben team is family. It's really hard to kind of pick and choose because you kind of want to play with everybody. When you come to the gym and you're at a new run for Toben, you're like, okay, who's with us today? Like, who are my guys who came out? You know what I mean? So it's always a new experience. But I take two dunkers, I take Josh, and I take someone who can strap up on the wing, so I don't have to play no defense, and that's what we do. There you go.
Now, if there was a one-on-one tournament, right, happening again, what position are you putting yourself in?
Right now, today, or at peak? Because those are two different questions.
Great question. Great. Let's put you at your peak in this case.
At peak? I'm winning. It's one-on-one. What are we talking about here?
The real question is, who's in there with you in the finals?
Who's in there with me in the finals?
We calling out.
I mean, that's kind of a compliment. Kind of a compliment. You get there.
It honestly, after we went to the last one-on-one tournament, it really depends on the day. Because you take a guy like Din, and Din may struggle against James. James is bigger, James gets ball, whatever. But you know what? When I played Din ran away from me and jacked up 3 threes. Bah, 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 done. You know what I mean? So when you have a guy like him who can score at any given day, if you look at our team, you're telling me there's nobody on our team that can go 5-6 buckets in a row, jumpers, side steps. Like we're all good basketball players. So it all really comes down to the day and who's playing. I think defense is important, but defense is not as important in a one-on-one game because if you're a good offensive player, you're supposed to score. So if you miss, it could be anyone's game on any day, right? So yeah. So who would be there with me? It would really depend on the day. I would take a well-rounded player to be there. So I take a Devontae to be there. Devontae could be there. You can jump in the finals there. You know.
I'll take that. I'll take that.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Devontae was Chad in a one-on-one finals. We want to see it. Exclusively on Toben Series Podcast.
If you got a time machine, we're in there. Right now, that's not a game you want to watch, bro.
Fair enough.
After us on that 5-on-5, we still got a little game to you. Chad, still got a little game to you, but you know what I'm saying?
Devontae will get it because he just turned 25. The knees are going to start getting to him. Don't say enough, you know?
Don't say that.
But Chad, you know, you're recently named the head coach of the Georgian Grizzlies. Congratulations to you on that accomplishment. Walk us through this process and your emotions leading up to the signing.
Yeah, man, it's crazy because COVID had everything kind of on a freeze, right? So my goal was at Humber. I was at Humber for 3 years. I did the majority of our recruiting. I was blessed with 2 head coaches who really put a lot of trust in me and allowed me to do a lot of stuff on the team. So I had a ton of learning experiences throughout that time. So I'm at that point now that I've been here for a couple of years. I'm ready to kind of take on a new challenge and see where I can grow with that. And we were hosting nationals. And the goal was to finish the year, win nationals, and then try and branch out from there. And I was so excited for that. And COVID hit and cut us because we were hosting and we were literally told 2-3 days before nationals. It was like a Friday practice and we were all called in. We were given our national backpacks and all the stuff that we already had ready. And they're like, yeah, there's not going to be a tournament. So that was heartbreaking. And at that point, I think for most basketball players that hit that COVID stage, coaches, everything, everyone kind of had to reassess their life. I don't got sports for an entire year. Is this what I want to be doing for the rest of my life? I'm putting in 90 hours a week to this thing. Like I can start gardening now. Like, you know, like you really take time to kind of reassess. I know a lot of basketball players decided to retire and go pick up jobs. I know a lot of college guys said, I'm going to graduate and do something different. Like there was a lot of people who were really hit with a tough decision at that point. And so for me, I didn't know where I was going to go or what was happening. And I just started learning. We had the Canada Coaches Clinic that was going on, reaching out to different coaches, going to podcasts. Everyone has been doing such good work in terms of sharing information over that time because we've all been so separate. So it's kind of been out on the internet for anyone who wants it. And I was just a sponge and I just started watching everything and soaking everything up and preparing my coaching philosophy and how I want to approach things with my athletes and how things have been approached for me. And I've had legendary coaches who have coached me. So it's like taking the best thing from all those places and trying to put it together into a nice, neat little package so that an athlete can actually have something to really appreciate when they leave, right? So spending a lot of time doing that. And when I heard about Georgian before, because I was kind of connected to the community, I had reached out to them and they're like, sorry, like hiring freeze, we're not posting anything, like, there's not much we can do right now, like whatever. I was like, cool, like if you guys decide to, please let me know. And then I ended up sitting around for an entire year. So nothing was going on. I didn't think about basketball. I'm like, you know what? When COVID's over, when we're back in gyms, like then I'll figure something out. Like we'll see what it is. Still training kids, still reaching out to some of my athletes and doing little things outside when you can. But I was kind of sitting at home, right? So when they reached back out to me to be like, hey, like we're posting the position, I was ecstatic. I jumped on it. I think I had 5 to 30 seconds of them emailing me, and then there was a long wait period as they were making some decisions on their end. So when they finally told me that they wanted to move forward with me in the position, I was excited because I had spent so much time over the last year of COVID preparing for this. So I'm like, great. I have 10 trillion plans. Which one do I go to first? So getting into that role now and trying to narrow down what the best things are to add to the program, how to bring these guys in, how to change a culture of a place. I mean, they've had some really good years before and they've had some good situations, but changing culture in terms of expectations is huge, right? So it's one thing to be a team and you're like, I think we can win. It's another thing to be a team and be like, man, there is no way we can lose. And being able to change that mindset based on the preparation that you put in. When kids leave practice, when your athletes leave practice, are they walking out of it being like, man, I've soaked up a lot, I've got better today, nobody else can mess with us? Or are they leaving like, we ran 17s all practice, like I'm tired? Like is it an empowering experience or a draining experience? Like what are we trying to get out of it? So trying to fine tune everything to make the best of those moments is something that I'm really excited about and something that we're kind of going through the process of right now.
We look forward to seeing you back on the court, being behind the bench, and getting that team going on and everything. But I want to ask you though, Nick Nurse talked about when he applied for the Raptors job, they asked him at the end of his interview. They said, "Tell us a joke." Was there something like that for you as well, or was it just like a plain simple 5-minute, 30-minute conversation like you said before?
Oh no, I was blessed. No one asked me for a joke. I'm not the funniest guy. So I'm good. They did, because being on the spot like that's tough. But what I did do was before I came in, I realized that it was more than basketball. And that's something that a lot of people don't realize. It doesn't matter what position you want to go into, no matter how glorious it looks, there's a lot of stuff that goes along with it that may not be the same glorious thing that you expect it to be. So growing up, when I was thinking about being a coach, good, I get to tell people what to do. I get to put in my own steps. I get to run X's and O's. This is going to be so much fun. Yeah, well, what about community engagement? What about alumni? What about your players' parents who want to come out? How are you going to make the game experience better for them? What are the different things that you're going to do? What about long-term development plans? How are your athletes getting better? What are you putting in place to enrich their life instead of you being a coach for the fun of you being a coach, And all athletes can look back at a coach in life and be like, man, like if it wasn't for that person, I wouldn't be in this spot right now. So me going to this position was all about what are the lifestyle experiences that I can give to my athletes so that when they leave university, they're a better person for it, right? And so I think that was that's been that main piece right there, right? In terms of coaching, it's not just about one thing; it's about all that other stuff that you have to add to your programs, right? So,
and that makes perfect sense. You touched on earlier talking about changing culture. Obviously, as we mentioned earlier, Georgian hasn't really been as successful in at least a decade. You bringing the championship pedigree, from Humber, being a player and a coach. So you won on both levels as a player and as a coach. What are you going to be able to bring in to teach your coaching staff how to become a winner, and also the players on the team how to become a winner as well?
Yeah, I don't want to be too disrespectful or anything. I think that Georgian's had a really good program, and they've had some really great players there. I know that when Tech and Justin were there, they were number one in the East for a while. Like, they've had some really good programs over there. But it's very, very different on the expectations that are put on a program. When you look at Humber and Sheridan, if Humber and Sheridan aren't number 1 or 2 in the West, it's a failed season. You know what I mean? I want to get us to a point where we're not clapping for those type of successes, but it's an expectation that we put on ourselves and that everyone puts on us. That's kind of the goal that we want to get to, right? And in terms of what we can change in terms of a winning culture, it's about preparation and the work. And I saw a post from Oakville Prep earlier today, and I had to laugh at it. You're talking about 30 teams. The
NBA players and the NCAA players, right? I saw that one too.
30 teams in the NBA, 17 spots each team. You're looking at 500 jobs in the NBA and over 500,000 Division I college athletes that want it. Stop talking about it unless you're putting in that work.
Yeah.
Don't tell me, hey, I want to win. All right, cool. We're getting up and we're going to do runs at 7 a.m. I don't want to do that. Then you don't want to win. Winning is not holding a trophy over your head. Winning is the everyday grind and the prep that leads up to that at the end. And so letting people know what the difference is between being a basketball player who likes basketball and shows up at practice and a professional, a guy who puts in the time, who stretches when he goes home instead of just sitting there watching Netflix. A guy who drinks water and takes nutrition important and sleep important. And I can tell everybody this from my own career. It wasn't until I ended up in my last year at York when I thought things were falling down, or when I was at Humber and I thought, like, you know what, this is my only shot, that I started to say, hey, I need to get in the weight room more, not just play basketball because I'm a basketball player. I need to sleep better. I need to change my diet. I need to do these sort of things. Like, that is what champions do. It's not about just playing and scoring buckets and highlights like we talked about earlier from this generation. It's work that nobody sees that separates you. And unless you're willing to do that, you're not really willing to win. So instilling that and showing what that level of work is. The same way Kobe showed Julius Randle and changed the whole Knicks franchise. It's that type of mindset that there is a level of work expected of you if you want to do this. And if you just want to have fun, then this isn't what's for you, right?
Such a good point, Chad. But I want to bring it back just a little bit. So after high school, you signed with York. We have to know, why in the hell did you pick York? Tell us that thought process, please.
Yeah. So honestly, I had a bunch of different offers, and like everyone, I wanted to be a D1 player. It was a lot different in my time, just because of exposure. You literally had to be in the gym in front of a coach to see it. No one could tell nobody about it. MPH wasn't around. There was no media house or any hype around it, so you really had to go play. And I was blessed because almost every single coach that I played in front of, I got attention from. And I even got some letters from the States. I had an assistant coach at St. Bonaventure reach out to me. I had a couple schools in New York. I had Liberty University that reached out to me, and I actually went on a visit over there. And I wanted to go to that school. I was like, you know what, that's going to be my school. But in my grade 12 year, my grandmother passed away. And in my house now, it was just me, my mom, and my sister. And so I wanted to be closer for them. And so I decided that I'd be staying back in Canada. And I also wanted love. Like, that's what kids are looking for. I wanted appreciation. And I know that at York, these guys were at every single game of mine since the start of grade 11. And so they were talking real nice to me, telling me how amazing I was, telling me how much they love me. And I was like, okay. You know what? If you guys are saying this stuff to me now, like, sure, I'll come, right?
Yeah.
Big shout out to Joe Razzo. He recruited me to MAC, and I remember talking to him, and I was like, so, like, what's the situation here? Am I getting 40 minutes? Like, every kid wants to know, like, am I going to be scoring 40 shots? Like, am I going to be the highlight, or what is it? And he goes, yo, we really like you, and in my impression, you could be a starter for us, you could be a big piece on our team, but I don't promise anyone anything. Anyone who promises you something isn't being honest with you. You got to show up in September and play. And I can say, hey, I like your game, and I think you could do these things, but at the same time, until you do them, there's not much merit to that. And I heard that, and I took it back, and I was like, cool. I guess you're just telling me that so that you may not have to play me. Like, I want to go here, right? But then you look across your career, and you get older, and you look at other coaches, you look at situations, and you're like, honestly, out of everyone that was recruiting me, he was the realest person to me, because no one can tell a player, like, hey, no matter what happens in a year, when you show up, you're going to get this. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I show up 80 pounds overweight to camp. I can't make a jumper, and all of a sudden I'm expected to still start because you told me so. That's not real. The real is you got to put in the work. And if you do, this is where I see where your opportunity could be, but you still have to put in the work. And as a kid, I just wanted the love. I wasn't ready for that. So I ended up deciding to go to York. It was the closest to my house. I could stay close to my family. I thought I got a lot of love there. And once I got to the school, I started to realize what post-secondary basketball was about. And it wasn't all glamour, and there was a lot of work that went into it, and I wasn't really ready for it in my first year. And shout out to Toot. Toot was one of the first guys to kind of put me in the weight room and show me what a workout's like, because I remember going to him and being like, man, I went to the field house, played 7 hours of ball today. What'd you do? You were only here for 2 hours. If you're in the gym for more than 2 hours, what are you really getting out of it? I went in, I did my workout, I went hard, I got what I needed, I focused on my weakness, and I moved on to the next thing because I need to rest. You just wore your body down from playing for 7 hours. What did you get better at? It's a mindset shift. Like, that's what professionals think about. That's how you approach the game as an adult when you're looking at it, as opposed to a kid who's out just playing at the park. Am I getting myself better today, or am I just having fun playing the game?
Yeah.
There's plenty of time for that, right? But if you're trying to excel, you need to focus on getting yourself better. And so being there with him was a huge mind shift for me to kind of be like, oh, there's a lot more work that goes into this than just I'm good and I play basketball, right? So that was a huge learning curve, and it didn't really translate for me on the floor. I'm a tweener. I think I'm a little bit ahead of my generation. I'm 6'5", point guard, love to pass the ball, matchup problem. But back at that time, you're a power forward, center, post-up hook shot guy, which was never any part of my game. And I wasn't able to make some of those adjustments. I was a shoot off the bounce guy in high school. I'm the point guard. I bring out the ball. I have it. I'm getting my rhythm. I can shoot it. Okay, now, well, that's not you anymore in university. You're playing a different role. Can you catch and shoot in the corner? Where are your spots? How do you make yourself more efficient? Not just can you score 20 and put up 25, but can you score 20 in 9 shots? How do you get to those type of situations, right? And it didn't quite click for me until I left York. So, yeah, that's kind of the story of how I ended up there and everything that kind of went into that.
Yeah, you kind of just trickled down there, though, but I appreciate you for telling us that and the viewers that. Now, if there's one thing that you took away from Coach Olivier, what would that thing be?
Coach Olivier never approached anything with fear. And that's something that I'll always appreciate about him. From defensive schemes to what we were trying to do to the teams we were facing, I never feel like, oh, man, like I'm kind of shaky here. He was all in on everything all the time. And that's something that I definitely want to translate to my athletes now is that go get after it attitude. Nothing's going to come to you handed. You got to go want it. You want to go get it, right? When you're pressing, you don't just stand there and hopefully the ball falls. You have to go after it. You have to dive for it. You have to put your body on the line. If you don't care about it that way, then you're not really playing the way that we want to be playing. So that's something that I take from him for sure.
And that's completely fair. You were able to obviously take that into your new life at Humber. You know, you had some team accomplishment as well as some personal accomplishments as well. But during your time at Humber, you went on to win a national championship as a player. Walk us through that preparation, emotional state, and the atmosphere of the team before your first national game.
Man, I love all those guys, so I hope I'm not giving away any internal secrets or anything. But I'll tell you this right now, I have never been on a team with more ups and downs throughout the year. And I think that really contributed to us at the end because we had gone through so much with each other, right? We were playing for something a little bit more than ourselves. And I'm not going to get into too many details, but we had some players on our team who were going through some certain things at home, and it wasn't separate from the team. It was everyone on the team knew, and we were all going through it with them, right? And leading into nationals, Humber's a team where we had 12 guys that could start on any other program in the country, right? So everybody wants 40 minutes. Everybody wants the ball. How do you get people to put aside their ego to play basketball, right? And I remember after OCs, we all kind of got together and we're like, hey, listen, like, if we're going to win, we need to be better than what we are right now. Internal bickering, selfishness, put all that aside. We got 3 games to win. That was it. That's all we had to do. Suck up your pride for 3 games. We got lucky to be here from guys who were fighting all year and all this different kind of stuff. Like, let's put it aside. And it didn't matter what happened. We were all cheering everyone. Everyone's victory was a team victory. We were super supportive. There was no like, oh, how come I didn't get player of the game? There's no jealousy on the team. It was like we're all trying to go for the same goal. And when we got it, the feeling of relief was crazy because right now I still have an Instagram group and a Snapchat group of the same guys. Like, we're still friends, and this is years down the road because when you go through those ups and downs, the bonds, you don't lose that type of stuff, right? So it was a really, really unique and enlightening experience for us.
And that's when they talk about brotherhood, this is exactly what they mean by brotherhood. To be honest with you, you know, be able to go through a tribulation like that, and to be able to go through some type of you know negative. I guess you could say negative in quotes and negative impact it might take on a player. For you guys to all come together and say, you know what you're going through, we're going through that too. For you to be able to, or not you personally, but for your whole team to be able to go through that, I agree. Then that's exactly what you mean by brotherhood, family. When you say Humber on 3, family on 6, whatever you guys might say, I'm sure that's what you guys meant by that, and that brought you a national championship. But talk to us about it personally for you, though. What did that national championship mean to you personally?
Yeah, my basketball career had tons of ups and downs, and like I try and say this when I talk to my athletes. Like I've been at every position on every single team at every single level. I have been the center who didn't want to be the center, and the guy who got through the point guard and had the ball. I have been able to take 40 shots and coach telling me and screaming at me to shoot more. And I've been the guy who coached like, yo, chill. You're not a scorer. Don't do that. Be a screen and roll guy. Like I've been all across it. I've been the 12th man. I'm the guy who doesn't get into games. I've had all those different situations throughout. And coming into York on a high in terms of all the love that you're receiving, all the offers, all that kind of stuff. Going into playing, my playing career at York started really high and then kind of dipped down. And middle way through while I was there, we switched coaches. And I think Tio wanted to go into a different style, which is completely understandable. I was not your freak athlete, your fast wing, and he was looking for that type of stuff to fit his style. And so it ended up that I wasn't really going to be playing. And that was really tough for me because I'm a loyal guy. I wanted to stay there. I wanted to stick it out. And at some point I'd be like, you know what? I have to make a change. And I remember coaching with them in my last year and kind of stepping away from ball after that. And I chilled. I put on weight. I didn't do anything. Like, you know what I mean? And shout out to Rudy over at Elite Camps. Rudy kind of set me straight and put me on the right path. And he was like, listen, unless you're done with a chapter in your life, you're going to keep trying to relive it. I don't want to be 40, 45, looking back on my life and be like, man, you know what I could have done? No, just if you can, then go do it. And that's when I started to really take care of my body and take basketball seriously. And coming into Humber kind of revived all of that for me, right? So going in and putting in the work, I lost about 80 pounds in the 2 years, like 40 pounds a year for the 2 years I was there at Humber. My boy Jay Mojado, shout out Jay, he was our trainer, and he spent extra time with me because he knew that I wanted to put in the work. So he was with me every single day, helped me through workouts, designing extra stuff for me, all of that. And it really helped get my body right so that I was in a position where I could be effective for extended periods of time in a game that I wanted to be in. And winning that national championship to me was like, this is like my vindication. This is me being like, this work means something. This is what comes out of that work. This work was tough. This work was grueling. I've never put myself through anything like that in my life. And this is the result of it, right? So a lot of times when we work, we're like, okay, so what? So what if I get 10 more jumpers a day? So what if I do one more mile or I push myself? Like, I'm just going to get drained. Like, it's okay. I've worked hard enough. But until you really push through to see what hard enough really means, you'll never really understand. And being able to have that trophy is funny because I tell people I do not like winning as much as I hate losing. So being able to step away and have that, it was a relief moment. It was like I put in this work. It's finally worth it. Everything's come together. I knew I could do it. I did it. Like, wow. Like, it was just that kind of everything came together the way you saw it. And I remember in the summer before we won, we had 2 new players coming on the team. 2 of my close guys, Kenny Edgem, who was a man-child from he stepped in our gym the day one, and Braden Gone, who had come off a Rookie of the Year before that. And they both came to the gym. And I remember me being a cocky, dumb little kid. I was sitting there, and I really, really believed, like, for the work I was putting in, I said, hey, listen, guys, I'm winning this year. Would you guys like to be a part of that? You know what I mean? It wasn't like a, hey, yo, we need you. Like, listen, I'm winning. Would you like to be here for that? Right? And being able to get down to the end and actually have those words come true for me was just like, it was a huge, huge moment for sure. And that changed my life in terms of like pro options and other stuff that comes from it. I stole something from Freddie Apia that he used to always say. And this is from playing in summer league with him. And it was everybody eats. When you win, everybody eats. Everyone on a bad team wants 40 shots because if I'm not scoring 50, no one notices me on a bad team. But when you win, 1 through 10, everyone's looking at me and like, yo, you guys are pretty tough. Like, what's going on here? So my goal for my future teams and for any team I'm on is get the dub, get the win, and everybody shines afterwards, right? So that's where it really comes down to, so that you're not fighting with each other, but you're all working towards that same goal.
Yeah, and I think that's so much easier as well, too. Now, the same winning mentality and the accolades at Humber now prolongs into your kickstarts your pro career in China, El Salvador, Spain, Australia, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure you have many unique stories. But what's your best story out of those 4 countries?
I gave you guys one last time. I don't know if I'm going to go with the same one, just because. But
It was an interesting one.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, sure, why not? I mean, in Europe, they do schooling a little bit differently. In Canada, we always think about basketball being attached to school. Over there, it's not at all. It's completely separate. They have club teams that are playing pro from when you're 14, 15. And so one of my teammates, he's playing with us, and he's a couple cities away from where his home is, and so he's doing school back home, but it's all online. So he has his computer, and he's always plugging away on his computer. One night, he came back drunk or whatever, and things didn't go the right way. He, I don't know, missed the bathroom, whatever, and he ended up relieving himself all over his computer. So we were talking about it the next day, and this guy asked to borrow my computer, and I'm like, why? He's like, I got to drop out of school. I'm like, what do you mean you got to drop out of school? And so he told me what happened the night before, and it was hilarious just because, like, it's really, that's your whole connection. Like, you have a real life outside of basketball when you're over there, right? Over here, it's like, okay, school is basketball. I go to school because of basketball. It's not like these are separate things. I have other goals. And so it really puts it into perspective when you're over there, and I thought that was a hilarious story on our side from him that I'll never forget, but a meaningful one in terms of like basketball and life and the connections that it has to all that.
Now, let me ask you real quick, which country did you enjoy the most? I know there's a lot of options, but not just basketball-wise, but everything-wise.
Honestly, I couldn't pick one because there's so many different unique experiences in all of them. Over in China, seeing what Chinese food actually is, it's not what you get in our stores here. It's a different thing. It's a learning experience for sure. In Spain, I was over there in Spain for a pretty long time, and so some of the cultural things, like I didn't get to go home for holidays and stuff like that. So different traditions that they have over like Christmas and New Year's was always like brand new to me, which is really, really cool to learn about. But I loved all those different cultures, but I think Australia was the best in terms of being able to communicate with people and being a part of the community. The people that you get to meet, I still have some lifelong friends from all stuff like that. It's really special to me because I always try and take a couple pieces from every place that I go. And there's always something that you can learn when you go over there, for sure.
Now, on the other side of the spectrum, what was the hardest part about being overseas? And I know a common one that we've heard from a lot of players here, is the language barrier. Would you say that's one of probably the hardest things to get over?
So my town in Spain is about 2 hours south of the airport there in Madrid, and we flew in, long flight. We get in, we get passed into this little van as we're driving into our town, and we're sitting there, and our coach is half talking to us in English, half talking to us in Spanish, and we're all looking at each other kind of like, what's going on? We get in, we touch down, and before we get to drop our bags off at our place, we were in the gym for practice. So we're in practice, and you're in a team full of 10 Spanish-speaking players. So what is coach doing? Coach is talking in Spanish, and he's almost forgot you're there. So he's giving the instructions for the day, and you're standing there, no clue what's going on, just nodding your head. At the end, he goes, hey, just follow them. And you're like, that's all I got.
Do.
Day one, nothing else, nothing. You just do what they do. And you're looking around, hoping not to get yelled at, but it's a learning curve, and I really, really loved it over there. I love the language. I really got good at the end. Started to understand what coach was saying to me half the time. But it's definitely a shock when someone's yelling at you and you have no clue what they're saying to you. Like that's a really hard adjustment, because over here, coach is yelling at you. You're like, okay, cool. Do I agree? Is he right to be yelling at me right now? What can I learn from this to get better? Okay, I should pull up this. This is what he wants from me. Cool, because I understand English. When it's in Spanish, you're there being like, bro, leave me alone. Like, why be so hard, right? So there's a lot of that kind of learning curve, and you're by yourself. You don't get to go back to your friends that night and be like, yo, guys, man, practice was hard today, because half your teammates you can't really communicate with like that, right? And you're in a new situation, so you want to impress everybody. So it's just basically you all by yourself. So the language barrier, huge. The loneliness factor that most people don't talk about, again, huge. Not because you're not around people, not because it's not a good environment, but just because it's not your people. Mm-hmm. When you're back home, you can go check in with your people whenever when you're overseas, there's time difference, there's Wi-Fi issues, teams get you your Wi-Fi late, whatever the case may be. There's always stuff that goes on that kind of separates you. I know when I went over there, we were in a small city and we had like one Wi-Fi guy for the city, so it took us like 2.5 weeks to get our Wi-Fi. So you're over there, you can't be using your phone every single day to call back home, the cost of all that. So you literally have zero communication with anyone back home for 2 weeks, except for maybe the one import that you're there with and maybe one or two teammates that kind of speak your language. And so you're there with 3 people that you don't know, and that's all you get for your first month. Like those are the type of drains that people don't expect when they go overseas, because they say, hey, pro basketball, glamour. But there's a lot of grind that goes to it too. Take care of your body. You're not getting given the same love you get at a D1 school with your medical facilities and 4 people working on you at once. Like when you go overseas, it's a little bit different. You need to kind of take more onus for yourself in those situations. And so it gets lonely. The language thing is huge. And then it's just trying to adjust to being more independent throughout.
No, that's such a good point, because some guys get screwed over in some situations like that. Now, speaking of screwed over, I hope this never happens to you, but the money sometimes, in terms of getting it, what's some advice you would give kids and the first-time families that receive a pro contract?
First thing, I was blessed in my situations. I never really missed any payments. My teams are always good with that, but I do know teammates who have gone through that. And guys who have even had to leave teams because they didn't pay them for a month, and they kept on saying next week, and it doesn't come through. So I've seen those situations, and I think the biggest thing for me personally is get yourself a good agent. Get yourself someone you can trust. My problem when I went over first was my agent was also the agent for my coach. If me and my coach have a problem, who's he going to side with? Mm-hmm. I had a Spanish agent. So he knew me as a basketball player. He knew me as a commodity. He didn't know me as a person. Didn't really connect with me like that. So if coach needs to play me more so I can go and get my next job, and coach is like, yo, I don't like him, I don't want to play him, the agent's going to fight the coach for you? No, that's his client. He wants to keep his client happy. So I had to do a lot of fighting for myself in those situations, looking for different jobs in those situations. All of that gets really, really draining. So make sure you have a good agent who can look through your contract, make sure things are legit and sorted out properly, so that you don't get yourself into those bad situations. Don't just jump on the first opportunity because it's an opportunity. Really, really vet these situations. There's a ton of teams, and if you're good enough, you will find a team. So don't take those bad situations just because, right? Don't use that desperation and make it lead you astray.
We're going to bring you back a little bit from that you already kind of touched on from the beginning of the show. After your pro basketball career, you come home and you start coaching with Humber, a school that you won a national championship with. Did it make it easier for you to become a coach or to coach with Humber, knowing that people saw you on the wall and knew your accolades from when you were there?
Yes and no. I mean, like I touched on it before when I coached at York, right? Both of these were high maturity situations, I would say, because coaching your friends and your teammates, there has to be a line drawn in between, and that's always tough to do. And at York, I did not have the accolades or anything that went along with it, and that was a much tougher situation for me in terms of getting buy-in. I would have the players who knew me as a basketball player, and that's 6-7 guys from before who listened to everything I say, and then you'd have 5 or 6 rookies who couldn't care less because they don't know anything about you, right? Mm-hmm. So coming back to Humber with that was always a blessing, because people want to listen. Like, well, how'd you guys do it, right? So that was the first thing. The second thing that was a blessing for me is when I came back, I could still hoop a little bit, not as much as not like now, like before I could actually hoop a little bit. So if guys would disagree with me, I'd be like, okay, cool, like here, let me show you, right? So I think that garnered me a lot of respect. I remember in my first year back, I would play guys one-on-one before practice every single day. Every single day.
I can see that.
And the win percentage was very high. And so the listening was also very high. Can't do that anymore. I don't like playing with my athletes too much anymore. But at the beginning, that's kind of what helped me bridge that gap when I first got back.
And that's completely fair. As we already touched up earlier today, we mentioned that you were a national champion when you were a player there. Unfortunately, it wasn't the same accolades, for you guys when you were coaching. But you did come second in OCAA. You did get third or second OCAA. You won a bronze medal about once or twice. while you were coaching there. I'm not exactly 100% sure on the accolades when you were coaching there. But what are some things that you could tell kids in general to say, you know what, you're already in a championship game, get them prepared for what you guys were to go through to not have the same unsuccess that you guys had while you were coaching it?
Yeah, there's a lot of ups and downs for sure, but I mean, I've been blessed to be in a ton of high leverage games. Mm-hmm. I don't think, I mean, besides my first year playing at Humber, I don't think I've ever missed an OCAA final. Been to nationals every single time, so there've been a ton of do or die games in my short career over there, right? So that's been a blessing, and the thing is the same every single time. Don't make the game bigger than it is. People come in and they hype up these moments. If you go to practice every single day as a winner, and you're like me and Devon were talking about, and you hate losing, if you go to a situation where you hate losing, that whole Michael Jordan documentary speaks volumes. If I'm playing you chess, I am mad after I lose as if it's the final game of NBA Finals. If you approach everything like that, then the nerves don't set in. When everything's like, oh, who cares if I win or not, and you're playing through, and you get to a big game, it's like, oh man, it's a big game. You're not used to being in that environment, that stressful environment. If you make everything a competition in terms of sports, everything's do or die. All right, coach says we're doing a rebounding drill. I have to get number one. I am going to be the best on this team. I will not lose. When you approach everyday life in those type of situations, those big games, they don't mean as much, because how can they be any more meaningful than you making them meaningful for yourself, right? So that carries a huge amount, that people get to these games and they build them up, and then they shrink because they're scared of this overwhelming pressure. Approach everything as a must-win, then those games are no different. And then you get to perform the same way you always do, right? So there's always that fear, that nervousness that builds up under that pressure, because guys don't put that pressure on themselves every single day. They cut corners. I don't need to win this sprint. Okay, so my team lost in this one drill, whatever. You know what I mean? They go casually through these things. I was the type of a player, like, if it's a competition, I'm winning. I don't care what it is. You know, like, that's the goal, to win. And if I can't, I'm upset with myself. So when it got to those big moments, it wasn't that big of a deal, because I'm here to win, because that's what we do. We don't accept less than that, right? So that's an easy way when you're in those situations.
And that is completely fair. And I hope that every kid listening to this right now is going to take your advice on this, because, you know, like you mentioned, losing is a lot worse than winning. So to be honest with you, you know, if you lose, in their mind they suck. You know, in the other team's mind, because we had Jamal on the show on a live show a while back ago, and we talked about the difference of Sheridan compared to Humber. And, you know, he had some choice words to say about Humber, which you can go check out. I'm not going to get into that right now. But he did mention that, you know, the difference of for him, when he lost you guys, he felt defeat. Like a sword was taken to his heart, and he felt like he was cut up. So I guess, you know, to talk about what you talked about, it's pretty much the same feeling with that one. But I want to end the conversation with your coaching career, with your pro career. And now I want Devontae to take you through some quick hitters to finish off the show, to conclude the show, because I am very interested to hear about what you guys talk about with these ones. So Devo, take it away, man.
Yeah, so we'll start you off again real quick, you know, some quick hitters. I'm going to give you about 7 seconds or less to answer some of these, okay? So first one, would you rather be a break dancer or crumper?
Break dancer.
Break dancer? Okay, if you could choose between singing or rapping, which one would you pick?
Singing. I don't know many rappers that can sing, but I know a lot of singers that can rap.
Ooh.
And your top 3 singers right now, if you may.
Oh, wow. Brent Faiyaz, St. John, and you know what? Let's go Chris Brown. You can't go wrong with Chris Brown, man. He's up there.
If you could have a conversation / spend the day with anyone in the world, dead or alive, who would you choose?
Oh, wow. Shoot, that's tough, man. I think I'm a huge process guy. So it wouldn't even be like a basketball conversation. It'd be like somebody whose processes I admire. I think that if you guys have ever watched any like interviews with Elon Musk, he always talks about first principles. And at the company that I'm at, That's a big thing for us, and it's about not taking things as a status quo. You know, if someone comes to you and says, "Hey, the way basketball's always been played is there are two bigs and three wings, and that's how we play. You need two bigs on your team." Well, San Antonio said, "What if we don't have a big?" And they changed the whole game of basketball. Not being constrained by what the status quo is a huge thing, and I love that kind of process thinking. What are we trying to accomplish? How would I accomplish it? Not how has it been done in the past. And that really frees you up to do things differently. And if you look across anything, whenever people come out with new innovations, it's because they're going against the status quo. One of the best examples of that is like when people were riding horses and they want to get places faster, and you ask them, "Hey, what do you need?" What will they tell you? "I need two horses or faster horses." The guy that invented the car didn't think in terms of giving you faster horses. He gave you something completely different. And so I want to talk to Elon Musk about his processes with some of the stuff he does, because he's one of those guys who's really highlighted that thinking process. And then hopefully I can bring that into everything else I'm doing in my life. So he's definitely one of those people I want to spend time with.
Fair enough. If you had a dinner party, this is the last question I'll ask you before we conclude the show, but if you have a dinner party and 5 empty seats, dead or alive, who would you bring to that dinner party?
Well, I'm a philosophy guy. I know a lot of people aren't with all the arguing, the discussions, and all that kind of stuff, but I love diving into the thinking of the thinking. And so the guys that I would have the best conversation for dinner and all. I would have to go with Jeremy Bentham, Friedrich Nietzsche, Voltaire, John Locke, and let's go with Descartes, just to kind of round it out. So I'd have those guys, 5 guys in there arguing.
So you guys aren't even trying to eat. You guys are not even going to eat your food.
Not even to get to it. No chance.
No Pluto?
No. Yeah. Pluto can be in there too. It's about having 5 big time thinkers discussing their perspectives, as long as they're differing, right? I'm not a guy who's big on agreement very much, because if everyone around you agrees, or if everyone's a yes man, you never really grow anywhere, right? So I want to have 5 guys sitting there fighting, arguing out their sides, and being able to pick at the best pieces of each.
I can't think of his name right now, but what about the guy, the first person that went to the moon? You want to take him either?
No, I would not take the first guy that went to the moon. No.
I think that would be a good conversation, but it's your dinner party. But, Chad, we like to ask all of our guests this last question to conclude the show. Who is someone that you'd like to hear on Talk Your Exposure? But here's the kicker, though. You got to help us get them on.
Cool, for sure. I would definitely recommend a guy like Jamal McQueen. He was doing some big stuff in basketball in the city. He's been around a little bit. Just for Reynolds over there, he's a Sheridan guy. So, there's still some love there, even though my record's pretty good against them. But we're not going to get into that. But Jamal's a good guy, and he's someone who I've noticed is doing something for the community. And there are a lot of guys who are doing things for themselves, and I really appreciate the time that he's been putting in. So he's definitely someone that would be good to have on here and give it a little chance to talk to.
For sure. Hey, Chad, where can we find you on social media?
Social media? Oh, man, hold on. I am not the biggest social media guy. You can find me at coach_Chad_B on Instagram. That's probably the main place. I do pretty much everything off Instagram. So if you want to reach me, you can reach me there. I know last time I gave a quick shout out as well. Another Instagram you guys should go check out is my wife, Steph, Strengthen with Steph. She's a physio and a strength and conditioning coach. She does a bunch of workouts for me and my guys, and I send all of my friends and half the guys that have been on the show go see her, and she's quite good at what she does. So she's definitely someone you want to check out. You have anything that's ailing, athletes going into next season. I know you guys have been out for a year and you guys need to take care of yourself. Definitely go and get a tune-up. Check her out on Instagram. That's Strengthen with Steph on IG.
This could be a hot take right now, but are we going to see her with the strength and conditioning coach next year at Georgian?
Hey, who knows? Who knows what the situation will become? But she's already started helping me, man. So I'm blessed to have her on my side, and we'll see where we go from there.
And that's why you put a ring on it. But we want to let everyone know and remind everybody to make sure you guys go and subscribe to Talk Your Exposure on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, wherever you get your podcast, or you can hit up RWI Basketball on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button, hit your notification button, make sure you turn on everything, and do not miss another episode of the Toben Series Podcast, or even Soccer Exposure. We got a lot of good episodes coming your way very, very, very soon, excluding the Toben Podcast. With that being said, Chad, we look forward to seeing you on basketball court, seeing you behind the chairs or in front of the chairs, however you want to look at it. we wish you nothing but safety and success throughout this next couple of years and throughout your life. We can't wait to see you back on the court soon, and we can't wait to see you do the leg spin move up and under for the three. We can't wait to see all of that. So with that being said, Chad,
I'll put it on my guys. Don't worry.
With that being said, Chad, thank you so much for your time, and we appreciate it. We can't wait to hear from you soon.
Appreciate you guys.